So let's get to it here with back to football, Pete. I want to highlight this name because if you're asking me a name that is emerging, right, that's got some helium behind it. Shout out to Josh Jarrow. I know he likes that line. A name that's really just going up. Keelan Marion. Oh, wait, real quick, before we get to that, Canes Cat Heat 305 says, this bill's a detriment to the CanesInSight bottom line, the Kentucky cell phone bill. What about when Pete was breaking scoops at Columbus, or I was talking to CJ Henderson during math class? There we go. That's what happened, man. What your career wouldn't have been at where it was today if not for your high school.
I'm gonna hold my comments to myself about. Yeah, that was our job at the
time. But anyways, let's talk about Keelan Marion, man. J.R. Barr saying nice to have a legit kick return threat, and we know he's a legit kick return threat. He's All-America, but what I've seen with Keelan Marion is just really nice emergence and consistent growth at the wide receiver position every day, making more and more plays. And this time last year, Pete, we were excited about Sam Brown, right? That was something we talked about a lot, his athleticism, what he could do. I can tell you with Sam Brown last year, it was interesting because Jerry Sullivan, who was like the elite wide receiver coach who coached Justin Jefferson and all these guys, longtime NFL guy. Some people say he was a GOAT NFL receiver coach. He lives in Miami, so he was just kind of helping at practice. And he was talking of Sam Brown. He said, this is the NFL guy. The personnel guys, everybody was talking of Sam Brown. But when you actually watched the practice, Sam Brown was not making a lot of plays. He was, he's clearly an athlete. There was a reason people were talking about him, but it wasn't like he was actually making plays. So you're kind of waiting like, all right, well, you got here late, middle of the season, this guy's going to be the guy. And to me, it never actually clicked with him. And what I missed with Sam Brown a little bit was that urgency. We think about the plays, a couple of plays. I know one against Florida stands out. I think there was another similar play where he caught the ball right around near the goal line and he couldn't get it in there. And it was like you thought he could just kind of walk in there. So the urgency was not really ever there with Sam Brown. With Keelan Marion, I see a guy who's diving for everything, who is making a lot of plays. He himself is a great athlete like Brown was. I mean, he was All-America kick returner, big guy, 200 pounds. But just, I don't know, there's more energy and urgency to me with Keelan Marion. He's just a different personality. He's bouncing off the walls. I like what I'm seeing from Marion. I'm not saying he's going to be the number one receiver, but I think he is going to catch some important passes for Miami this year.
Yeah, I was very excited about Sam Brown as well. The NFL was very big on him, and the upside was there. But all of the stuff that you're mentioning kept him, from being one of Miami's consistent players. I think if you're comparing the two, Marion's stronger, like just in the core here, like a little bit more filled out. I think he's listed at 195. So I think he's a little bit more filled out there in terms of core, and is a guy who can break some tackles, right? I don't know about the side to side stuff. I don't see him being a guy in the slot or even on the outside who's like making people miss or like just consistently getting open, but he gets a little crease, he gets the ball, and I think he can take off with it.
And I'm a big body language guy. I know we have a lot of coaches in the chat. Coach Jenko, we got a ton of other guys who coach different sports. I always talk to my son about, your body language, man. You got to be urgent. The little details you do, running to drills, just not necessarily having to be Johnny try-hard, show off, everybody look at me, but just having good, positive body language. And I think with Keelan Marion, he just seems like he's always ready to rock, man. He's bouncing up and down. He's a high-energy type of individual. He's not afraid to have contact, right? You mentioned Pete, he's like a 200-pounder. He's almost built like a running back. So yeah, I just like what he brings to that room. And I think I made this comparison on CanesInsight.com, 7.5 million posts and counting. Sign up if you haven't signed up today. But if you look at like the receivers last year, it's not a one-to-one comparison. I think we're gonna have more guys playing than we did last year. If you look at last year, I think the Restrepo role, that to me is Malachi Tony. Tony Johnson's going to make some plays too. By the way, Ray Joseph's made some plays too. But I think if I'm asking who's the most like Restrepo, to me, it would be a Malachi. Horton, that would be a CJ Daniels to me. More experienced, older guy, but similar size, contested catches. You know what he's going to do on third down and things like that. JoJo Trader reminds me a little bit of Jacoby George. Just that quickness, that fluidity, the fact that, he can really turn guys around and make guys look silly running routes. I see, and some ball tracking ability. I see some Jacoby George with JoJo Trader, maybe a little more talented with JoJo, just more athletic. But then you look at the Sam Brown role. That's why I compare the two. I think Keelan Marion can give you that, just maybe with obviously the kick return plus, but then also just a little more kind of physicality and energy. As Coach Shenko says, that type of energy is contagious. How you about those comps?
And I don't disagree with it completely. I would have said if I did.
Yeah, but look, I think more people
I will
will play
let
than
my
last
opinion
year.
be known.
I think more people will play than last year. Meaning, like last year, you really had 4.
Well, you heard what Dawson said. Dawson pretty much said it himself. Like, we feel good about a lot more guys playing this year than we did last year. And I said it yesterday on the show, D. Like, and you know this, Cam didn't trust outside of the top 3 receivers, and then really Arroyo. Like, you can throw Brown in that mix. He obviously didn't trust him to the same degree as he did those top 3 guys. And I think different quarterback, but that trust and just, again, I call it playability. Like, is this guy playable? Can you put him out there and not expect him to freeze up in that moment, or to make a pivotal mistake? Unfortunately, like we saw JoJo with the drop that he had against Florida last year. Like, but that is a learning moment. You hope for someone like him. A guy like Chance Robinson just wasn't healthy last year. He's gotten himself to a point where you need him out there. You feel good about what he can bring from a size and physicality standpoint, right? So underneath the top level guys, there's just more that I feel comfortable about. And Shannon Dawson said it himself. It's not my opinion.
Yeah, you said it. You mentioned trust. I think Tony Johnson falls in that category. Playability.
Mm-hmm.
He's played, so he's what he can do. You have younger guys, kind of. Ray's been around a little bit, but then the other younger guys like the Nikars of the world who started to make some nice plays. He can. Those guys are. Chance Robinson, I think, is really kind of surprising me with his consistency. I should probably highlight him again. Chance Robinson, he is going to be a factor. He's really just kind of steamrolled his way into this conversation when I personally was not like counting on it, just because I hadn't seen him. He hadn't been playing. So now seeing him play, he's really earning his way. So shout out to him and the work he's put in to be on the field. But he's going to be a factor, I think, at some point, if not sooner. And then, Josh Moore, of course, the flashes he can do. I like Dalen Upshaw as well. So it's a good group, man. There's a lot of guys that can do it. Good question from Nashville. And Pete, let me get your thoughts after I chime in, which is, who would you rather have on the roster, Isaiah Horton or CJ? You guys know that we were like really the first people to talk about Isaiah Horton in the first practice of spring 2020. Would that be 24? Right? We were like, hey, Horton's a new man. He's gotten bigger. So we're big Horton fans. I would say this. I think Horton's upside is the best, meaning like, he's in Alabama now with 2 other really good receivers. He's going to get a very favorable coverage. He's an emerging player. He's getting better all the time. Very athletic. So I think the upside of Horton, as far as like being just a game-breaking player, I think is higher. But I think for like this team, which a lot of young players, CJ Daniels is a leader, and he, not that Horton is not, but like Horton's not that personality that's going to grab everybody and say this is this. The guys we had last year weren't like that. Really, none of them were like that. Even like Restrepo and George, who were really great players for us, that wasn't their personality. Not everybody's like that. And it's not a bad thing. There's guys in the NFL that are just icons that aren't like that. Just not everybody has that personality. So it's a social kind of thing. CJ Daniels is the guy who will take time to really work with the young guys and show them how to be a pro. And I think, because, like Josh says, because we're so young, that leadership, and not just leadership by example. Xavier Restrepo was the absolute ultimate leader by example with how he took care of himself and how he performed. I think Daniels has that, but he also has like, hey, I'm going to actually take time to grab these guys and teach them. And that's just something. His dad, like Daniel's dad, is like a motivational coach, basically. That's his business. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's a skill that he has. It's something that he actually just emphasizes in his home, and it's not fake. It translates to the room. So I think that's why I like CJ Daniels' fit here on this team. And I think production-wise, he'll at least give you what Horton gave you last year. Now, Horton might go out there for Alabama and be one of the more dynamic receivers in the SEC. I don't know. We'll see. He could. I wouldn't surprise me. But in terms of like what Horton gave us last year, contested catch, reliable, move the chains, I think CJ Daniels definitely can do that.
Yeah, I'm still going to take Horton because I think his upside, there's more to what we've seen, and we've seen him get better like each year, really. And we thought there could be a breakout year 2 seasons ago. The situation was pretty messed up at quarterback at that point, so it didn't happen. But I'm a huge fan of Daniels. I think maybe you could say his hands are one of the most consistent in the country. We saw in the SEC, in terms of the drop rates, he was good last year. The big playability we saw at Liberty, but I know what we had in Horton at Miami, and I see some of the stuff, and I think from an NFL perspective, he's thought of higher than Daniels as well. So yeah, he didn't, for as big as Horton was, he didn't play like he was like mock guys out there, right? So you could say that he's a bigger receiver, but at the same time, you saw how he was killing on slants last year and just getting inside of these smaller corners. So I'll still take Horton there.
Yep, no, all fair points. So I can't argue with you. It's gonna be hard watching that guy perform. I think he's gonna have a big year. Philly Kane says, "Morning, guys. Finally catching you live. Love the show and the content you bring. Appreciate you, Philly Kane. I've been on a Philly music kind of run right now. Just my playlist has just been all Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, Delphonics, Hall & Oates. So Philly Soul's been heavy on the D Money playlist right now. So shout out to Philly. Phillies are playing well. It's a fun place to watch sports. I'll tell you that. I was out there a couple weeks ago. Johnny Green, appreciate you.
I think weren't we told that Duffy's is a Phillies bar also?
Oh, a sneaky Phillies bar. You're absolutely right. Duffy's is a sneaky Phillies bar. It's kind of undercover because they're such a local institution. And I'm a Marlins fan. I didn't want to say it. But if you're a Phillies fan, you want to find out where the Phillies fans are, Duffy's Tavern in Miami. If you're a Philly fan in Miami, Duffy's Tavern right there, West Miami, is the way to go.
So I exposed it. I wasn't supposed to expose it. I apologize.
No, we'll expose it. You're a Phillies fan. You know where to go in Miami for your Phillies game. So Duffy's Tavern, baby. Play by the Rules says, the wide receiver is stacked with young talent ready to rock. It's going to be exciting watching this group, because I think with Beck, I think Ward was Ward was so locked in, and there was so much on him that he did not have time for young receivers. And that's not meaning that it was any kind of character flaw. He was just like, man, I'm trying to have the number one offense in the country by far. Our defense isn't that good. I'm trying to be number one overall pick by playing, and not selfishly, but I need to perform at that level. Right. So he really did not, he was locked in on those 4 veteran receivers that we had, where I think Beck, he has the same goals, but I just think there's more trust in the defense, and it's less like, hey, if this guy drops, I'll come back to him. You know what I mean? I think he's going to spread the ball around more than maybe Ward did. Ward had the number one offense we've ever seen. So I'm not going to second guess anything Ward did, but just for the purposes of this team, I think you will see more of the ball spread around to those younger receivers by Beck. I just watching him practice. One thing about Beck really doesn't lock in on receivers. He not that Ward did either, really. But Ward is so good, he can just kind of be like, hey, Restrepo, get open. I'm going to bomb it into you perfectly without worrying about it because I'm so pinpoint and so special with my arm. Beck throws it to the open guy. And I think his style of play fits maybe a bigger wide receiver rotation, which really you had at Georgia. When it wasn't that good, they were dropping a lot, but you had a lot of guys kind of in the mix, and he was just throwing it to everybody, throwing it to the tight ends, throwing it to the running backs, et cetera. So, I think he was really doing a good job getting those guys involved every time I've watched him, and we'll see in the scrimmage tomorrow. But he is an extremely talented player, man, and he's the guy we need. Like J.R. Barr says, he's battle tested, will not fear playing anywhere against anyone important for a team leader, can help wide receivers along. I am bullish on Beck, man. Will he be Cam Ward? Odds are against it. Will he be the best quarterback we've had besides Cam Ward since forever? I'd probably bet on that for sure.
Why are odds against it?